Hey everyone! So today we're going on a bit of a rant about what is proper sword form and who gets to decide what it is. So back in the early days of this channel, then in the comment sections, then people were saying, oh, you didn't do X, therefore your sword form is wrong. And I'm very grateful to my subscribers and to my sword friends who have helped make the comment section a much more positive place nowadays, and I'm very grateful for that. But it begs the question, who was right, them or me? Now the short answer is that more than one person can be right. And I like to look at proper sword form and break it up into three different parts. The first is, it is what it is. And the second is that it achieves its desired purpose. And the third is safety. So it is what it is, the first part. The sword form must be what it claims to be. For example, if you practice Tai Chi Gen your entire life and you become very good at Tai Chi Gen, and then you do exactly the same moves with a katana in your hands and you say it's Sete Iaido, well, it's not Sete Iaido, it's Tai Chi Gen with a katana. And there's nothing wrong with Tai Chi Gen with a katana, but that you can't call it Sete Iaido. The form also must be in line with the basics of that form. For example, the proper form in Jeragum would be having long stances with a low center of gravity, because that's the basics, that's the ideology of the form. Whereas in Sete Iaido, that would be completely wrong, because you want to have a walking length stance with slightly bent knees. Now, at times the improper form isn't for any reason because of a biomechanical advantage or because of the basics of the form, but it's simply because it's breaking etiquette. So for example, in Kendo, if you have your left foot forward, there's no rule saying that you can't, and there's no reason why you can't put your left foot forward and do all the moves of Kendo. But by etiquette, then it's wrong, because the commonly agreed upon etiquette would be to have your right foot forward. Now for certain types of sports swordsmanship forms, then the form has to abide by whatever rule systems are in place for that sport. For example, in Olympic fencing, you can't show your back, and so that automatically excludes certain types of moves which would show your back, because it doesn't abide by the rule system, so therefore it becomes improper form. So the sword form has to be what it claims to be. Now if you want to make your own freestyle form, then there's nothing wrong with that. You can absolutely do that. But you can't go and claim that it is some other type of sword form. And you see this happen a lot from a lot of McDojos, where they create their own fantastic looking sword form and they say, now this is Taekwondo sword, or they claim it's some ancient Japanese Koryu school. And at the core of it, it's not. And that is what makes it bad sword form. Now the second point is that the sword form must achieve its desired purpose. It has to do what it intends to do, keeping in mind that there are multiple objectives of swordsmanship. So let's say that you want to do tameshigiri and you have bad edge alignment. Your sword form is going to be wrong because of your bad edge alignment. It doesn't matter if you have the crispest, cleanest looking form with your elbows in the right place, your back perfectly straight, and fantastic zanjin all the way through. If you can't cut your target, for tameshigiri it is bad sword form. Now conversely, then let's take a look at XMA, Extreme Martial Arts. Now if you want to put on a sword form demonstration that shows off athleticism and skill and shows you doing flips and spins and things like that, which is fantastic to look at, then that could be fantastic form for what you're doing. But if you were taking it to a sparring or a cutting perspective, it wouldn't achieve its desired outcome. Therefore, it would be bad form in that regard. Whereas if you're doing it for an XMA demonstration, it would be fantastic form. Now, to the untrained eye, then often people look at sword form and they say, that one looks clean, that one looks right, therefore that person has good form. And I'd like to bring to people's attention that you can do something that is inherently wrong over and over and over until it looks right. So you can practice something that's completely stupid and doesn't achieve anything beneficial from a sparring perspective, and you can do it until it looks clean. And then if you do it in a sparring match and happen to score a point with it, then people will be like, yeah, that's good form because it looks good. But it can still be wrong. So keeping in mind the desired purpose of a motion and then saying, well, does it effectively achieve this or not? So the desired outcome can differ greatly between different schools of swordsmanship. For example, I started with Korean swordsmanship and I've only recently been delving into Japanese swordsmanship. And so in Korean swordsmanship, whenever you improved upon a form, it was because you were getting more power out of it, you were getting more speed, more reach, or you were giving yourself more options. There was some clear advantage that you were doing to improve your form, and therefore any improvement in those regards would be seen as proper form. Now, in Japanese swordsmanship, my experience with Seite Yado is that you can achieve more power, but it can still be seen as improper form if your form doesn't look clean and crisp, because the ideology of Seite Yado is that you have less openings and that you want to be a formidable opponent to your foe. And that's not wrong. It is important. And so then all of those advances that would have been seen as improving the form in Korean swordsmanship may not be seen in the same light in Japanese swordsmanship. Now finally, the third point that we get to is safety. Proper form has to be safe for the wielder. For example, if you have your own freestyle swordsmanship form that's used for repelling multiple attackers and it does it very, very efficiently, but in the process you also happen to lose your nose and both kneecaps, I would argue that that's a terrible form because you've harmed yourself and you can only do this form once. So at the end of the day, then proper form has to, in my opinion, and my opinion alone, other people can disagree with me, has to achieve those three purposes. It has to be what it claims to be, it has to achieve the desired outcome, and it has to be safe for the wielder. And at the end of the day, then proper form could actually be very arbitrary. For example, if you take Seite Yado's first form, Mae, it's seen as the basis of all Seite Yado and it encapsulates the feel of Yado. But how did they decide what was proper form? Well, a bunch of masters got together and said, yep, that's proper form. That's literally how it happened. There's no historical basis for it because the katana was never used sitting from the seiza position. It just wasn't done. But because these masters have created their own institute for it, they've come up with a community that agrees that's their form, and they've come up with competitions with it, accept that as the form, then by its regards, it is proper form for its own purpose and its own standards. So the takeaway message from this video is that there's many different types of swordsmanship, many different forms, and just because someone's form looks different from how yours does or how you would think that it should be done, doesn't necessarily make it wrong. And if you approach things with, oh, that's different, therefore it's wrong, then I think it's probably time to just take a little bit more of a mature approach and start seeing the world from different perspectives and realizing that their thing could be achieving everything that they need it to, and therefore it could be proper form for them, or that it could just be different. Now, the caveat to that is that there is improper form, and if you see bad form that doesn't achieve its desired purpose, is unsafe, or is claiming to be something that it isn't, then by all means you can call that out. Let's say that you're an Iaido master and then you see someone who's spinning around a sword and saying, ah yes, I practice Iaido. You have every right to say that's not Iaido. Do you have every right to say that's improper swords form if they're saying that it's their own freestyle swordsmanship? Probably not, because it might be doing what they want it to do. So I hope you took away something from this. I hope you found it interesting. And with that, I'll see you next time.